think we can relate to what these groups are going through. I think we can relate because for some of us, we went through this experience a few months back, didn't we? Where we kind of were doing the exact same thing. Instead of bringing in all kinds of churchy people to fill pews, we began to bring in people like this. Some people that were unchurched. Some people who had never learned church rules and church etiquettes and didn't have a long-standing tradition of churchy stuff. And religious people began to say, but that's not how we do things. That's not what my grandma taught me. That's not what my mommy and daddy taught me. This is different, and we don't like different. Can you imagine the tension? Imagine a very formal and conservative church where one Sunday all the old people leave and they're gone on a trip to Branson for a month. I don't know if they do that down here. I know that in the Midwest, a lot of the senior circle groups and stuff, they go to Branson. They do bus trips. So let's say that all of the established religious people get on a bus and they go to Branson and they go and see all the shows and they have this great time and they're gone for a month, and then they return back and they find that the pews are full of teenagers with weird hair and weird clothes, and they're jumping up and down and worshiping God and doing things that are different.
Amen.
See, I don't think the struggle that Paul is trying to help ease tension here, I don't think that struggle is very different than the struggles that we face today. Because we still have the same thing going on. We have the established religious tradition versus the unestablished, the new, the whatever word you want to use. I don't want to sound condescending either way. It's a struggle that we can understand. And see, Paul is going to give us 3 facts to remember as we struggle to resolve this dilemma. The same way that the Jews were struggling and the non-Jews were struggling to solve this dilemma, we need to solve this dilemma as well. And these 3 facts are all drawn from the Old Testament. They're drawn from the Jewish Bible. You know, one of the reasons I know that Jesus wasn't coming to try to establish a new religion is because Jesus was Jewish. He grew up in a Jewish home. He went through all the Jewish tradition. Circumcised on the 8th day. He went through the Jewish rite of passage. He was in synagogue every week. He read the Old Testament, the Torah. He was a Jew. And then you look at the people he surrounded himself with. You look at the people he chose to be his disciples. Yes, they were the misfits of society, but guess what? They were all Jews. All of them. His purpose wasn't to go around and say, you Jews are so stupid, we're going to teach you something better. His point was to say, you know what? I think we've missed something along the way, and I'm here to show you a better way. I think that's why Jesus used the Old Testament so much when he taught. I think that's why Paul here brings about these facts, and they all come from the Old Testament. Because he's trying to show that the Jews aren't irrelevant. Paul quotes the Jewish Bible a lot. In his 13 letters, he quotes the Jewish Bible a lot, and 20% of his quotes occur right here in Romans chapter 9. And this week we're going to find most of these quotations are going to come from the book of Genesis. And next week, as we continue on in this, we're going to find that a lot of his quotes come from the book of Exodus next week, from the second book of the Jewish Bible. It's almost like Paul was following a pattern. But he's showing the relevance of the Jewish history and the Jewish Bible. So let's look at our first fact. It's in the second half of verse 4 and verse 5. The first part of verse 5. Look at it again with me. He says, theirs is the adoption as sons. Theirs the divine glory, the covenants, the receiving of the law, the temple worship, and the promises. Theirs are the patriarchs, and from them is traced the human ancestry of Christ, who is God over all, forever praised. Amen. So let me give you the first fact that I see in here. The first fact is this. We know God has given his promises to Israel. Now that might sound funny in light of our world today. But we know that God has given his promises to Israel. I mean, look at this. Just in these 1.5 really short verses here, there are 7 special privileges that God has given to the nation of Israel. Look at it. Adoption as sons. Again, talking about that special relationship that God has with the nation of Israel, where he said, you will be my people and I will be your God. He has adopted them as his sons. Theirs is the divine glory. So, when God revealed himself in, I'll say physical form, although he wasn't like in the flesh the way we would think, but God revealed himself to the nation of Israel. He revealed himself a lot of different ways to them when he was trying to bring them out of Egypt, and when he led them out of Egypt and led them through the wilderness, didn't he? Is there any more divine glory than to see the presence of God himself? That's what he did for them that he hasn't done for the other nations. It's a special privilege reserved just for the nation of Israel. The covenants, the special promises that he made with them. Again, you will be my people and I will be your God if you keep my commands and my covenants that I give you. Has he done that with the rest of us? Well, in a way he has through Christ. But that's different. This was a special relationship. The receiving of the law that Moses gave. The temple worship. We've talked about this a lot in Sunday school. About the building of the temple and how God's name was on the temple there in Jerusalem. His presence was among his people. The promises that he made to you. Again, theirs are the patriarchs. The patriarchs. We're going to talk about the patriarchs here in a few minutes. You see, there are these 7 special privileges to show God's special relationship to the nation of Israel, to the Jewish people. And the thing is Paul writes these things in a present tense language. This isn't past tense. You know, one time God did this. This is present tense. God is continuing to do it. He's continuing to have special relationship with his people. Now, I know what you're thinking. So I want to specify something here real quick. God is using the church to fulfill his plan. But the church has not replaced Israel. That's the reality. That's one of the big things that caused the split that we endured not too long ago. A difference in thinking on this very topic. And I thank God that our brothers at the other place have found them in the ministry. But see, he doesn't believe this. He believes that all the promises of Israel, all the special privileges, that they're gone. And that now applies to us. But if you look at what Paul says here, and if you look at the language he uses in the present tense, he is saying, not only did God do this once, but he is continuing to do it, and he will continue to do it. Until the fulfillment of time, when Jesus returns, and all things as we know it cease, God will continue to have a special relationship with his people. Now, it's true, it may only be a small remnant of his people, but he will have a special relationship with the Jewish people. We don't replace them. We don't accept replacement theology.